They call me the Doctor.
I'm the Doctor.
I am the Doctor.
I'm the Doctor. I'm the Doctor.
I am the Doctor.
I'm the Doctor.
I'm the Doctor.
Greetings, humans, Daleks, Time Lords, and gas mask zombies. You're listening to Exterminating Doctor Who.
This is the show where we take Doctor Who's most popular episodes and debate if they're really as good as their reputations.
With your hosts, Aidan and Gula.
And me, George Ellis.
And in today's episode, we are talking about The Empty Child / The Doctor Dancers.
Yes, we are.
That we are. I didn't watch it.
Well, you know, you've watched it before.
Because I watched it about 2 weeks ago.
He hasn't just gone here and gone like, fuck
the
it,
podcast.
I'll wing it. I won't even watch it. I don't even know what the episode is. I'll just fucking give it a go. No, he's seen the episode.
And I couldn't be bothered to do it again.
Yes.
Because if it was like one part, like we're going to do The Girl in the Fireplace soon, and I watched that this week, I will be watching that again.
But it's a two-parter, so it's a
lot.
But
a two-parter is like come on.
It's quite.
Especially a two-parter that I've seen like a billion times.
I've seen this one quite a lot. Like when I have quite a good memory of this one, like when I was younger and that kind of thing. But I've never really kind of
sat down to focus on this specifically.
Not yet, and definitely not at my current stage in life. So my understanding of it is definitely better
heightened
now. Yes, but yeah, now that I've seen it today, actually, because I now for some reason watch them on the same day as recording the podcast. But screw it.
Living life like me now.
Yeah.
Next week you won't even watch it.
No. Fuck the podcast.
Week after, we'll just sit down, go Doctor Who and leave.
No.
We've only got, 9 episodes left of the podcast?
That's actually quite sad.
In the final stretch.
I don't want it to be like just 9 left. Like,
well, I have a Series 3 planned, but when that Series 3 will be is the question. Anyway, carry on.
Watching it now, right? No, I have a much better understanding of kind of the characters and the locations and just kind of that it's set during wartime. Like as a kid, I was like wartime, but now I'm like wartime.
Wartime, yeah.
Like I get it, and just a lot of the nuances and especially the way the empty child thing works. I did not, for the life of me, remember the twist when I was younger. Like
the twist being the mother thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I could not for the life of me, like if you'd have put a gun to my head yesterday, said what is the twist? I'd be like, there's a twist? Fuck, like no, but it's a really good twist. Fucking heartbreaking at the same time because it brings up so many questions as to like how did the kid die? How did she even have the kid like during this time because she doesn't have a home? What happened to her parents as well? It brings up so many questions and it's traumatizing, but it's also it's a happy ending in a way because the kid she lost gets brought back, but it does show you why she's so scared of the kid because it's a brother scary, your own kid that you've lost. It's an extra layer to that, really. But it's a really good twist, and I think it's fucking dark. It's a dark twist though, like it's dark.
It's a very dark episode, all in all. Stephen Moffat's first, then he's like, "I'm gonna give you dark."
But like that's the thing though, like it's dark. Obviously, just to clarify, dark doesn't mean bad. Like I love dark shit. Fucking hell, my favorite superhero is Batman. And apparently the Batman that we're watching tonight is the darkest interpretation, live action wise, of Batman ever. And I'm like, give me more.
Give me that.
Exactly. But it is really dark, this two-parter. But it also has some wonderfully, beautifully light elements. The main, like one of them being the Doctor dancing. Another one being everybody lives. Like it is dark, but it's hopeful.
It's like one of the darkest episodes up until the ending. Then it actually has probably one of the happiest endings in the show's history.
But I think that's beautiful kind of storytelling from Moffat because by writing it so dark and so just dreary, but by giving, especially during wartime, giving hope and giving life to these people, it's just something really, really beautiful. And I think that's the thing with a lot of kind of Moffat episodes. Like the ones where he comes in, even like the Blink, for example. It's sad and dark, but it's got some light elements and happiness in the end. And there's just something, I think Stephen knows how to create a real balance between writing something. Because dark is great. I love dark. You need a little bit of light though to give you a bit of hope. And by doing that, it creates this episode which you can sit down and rewatch and enjoy because you can enjoy the really tense moments because you know it's all going to be okay in the end.
Yeah, because I like that in the episode as well that they're in the state of war and everything's miserable and all these kids have come back from evacuation because even that was miserable and all these things that they hate. And then you just think, oh, why are we here? Why are we trying to get through this? I like that they actually kind of, in these kind of things, it's like, don't say anything. Don't do anything that will change history. But Rose does just tell Nancy, you win. You are not going to, this war is not going to end forever. We will win.
And oftentimes...
And I like that because it's like, technically, you probably shouldn't be saying that because you're kind of breaking some things, but you kind of,
You're telling someone who isn't, yeah.
Nancy's not going to affect the fate of history,
exactly.
is she, really? So I like that Rose just thinks, you win. Come on, have some hope. Keep that spirit alive.
And again, it's the idea of telling someone that. Like, I'm sure there'll be people even during the time who'd be telling each other, we're going to win, it's okay, So even hearing that, you can't prove, like, to Nancy, she can't, in her mind, like, I don't think there's any part of her brain which can, like, prove that Rose is a time traveler. But it's like, so hearing it wouldn't change anything really, but it's still nice for her to hear it. And that's something else, actually. Oftentimes, like, during kind of historical episodes of Doctor Who, if they go to kind of wartime and that kind of thing, you have this idea of war being horrific and that kind of thing, but it was quite interesting seeing Nancy, like, speak about the idea of losing and how she expects to lose. Like, she expects to lose, and it was nice for her to get that hope, because I think for a lot of people during that time, there would be a huge fear of losing. That's the whole point, really.
Yeah.
But it was just, I don't know what the word, like, it's not nice to hear her say that, but it's like, it's a perspective that I think is quite often overlooked. We see the fighting back.
Yeah, because I think you could think, like, when we look at war things, you kind of think, you get 6 years of absolute misery, but it was all right in the end. You just kind of think, yeah, but that's still 6 years. I mean, we've had COVID for 2 years and we're all fed up of it. Do that 3 times.
And for the people in it,
and
they don't know there's a way out.
And you'd be thinking, this is it. This is the rest of my life, or we are going to lose, and I'm going to be speaking German all my way of life. Like, I think that is something you kind of don't think about very often.
And it's interesting to have it kind of given a little bit of a spotlight for a moment. And handled well. Like, I think the entire episodes, I always do this, the entire episodes, the entire two-parter.
You could just say.
The entire two-parter handles the idea of war very well. You have the coping mechanisms that people have, the comedy clubs, the comedy. You have the way the families are surviving, just the normal families. You have the way orphans are surviving. You have the way kind of, you have a hint of kind of soldiers and that kind of thing. It's not a huge case study on war, but it does really handle a very kind of, what it does focus on, it really kind of spotlights and gives you a good kind of showcase of how it kind of affects a certain group of people and handles it very well in a way.
Yeah. I agree.
It's very good.
Yes. Before we delve deep, though,
Rumour mill.
Of course, it is rumours and news time. Of course. News, very quickly, but it begins. Russell T Davies is at Bad Wolf Studios today. So, Series 14, all the 60th anniversary, which everyone is doing, has begun. So, something will surely come out soon. We'll start seeing some things. That is exciting. What is also exciting is this is a rumour now, and this will kind of mean nothing to you, but when I saw it, it got me really excited. And it's like, really like, oh, this is like production news. Why is that exciting? But it's rumoured that the new script editor is a man called Scott Hancock. And you'll be thinking,
script editor.
You'll be thinking, so what? But Scott Hancock is a big figure over at Big Finish. And he's worked for the actual show. He got his first job, I think, was Doctor Who Confidential. Then he got a job on Sarah Jane. Then he got a job on the main show. And then he went off to Big Finish. And some of my favourite Big Finishes are either written or directed by him. So him being script editor, which has a lot of power, because they can just be like, Russell, no, let's do that, let's do this. Do you mean they can, oh, how about we do this instead? And he's good friends with Russell Davies. That really excites me.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time as well in Doctor Who script, a lot of script editors from Doctor Who then go on to write an actual episode as well. Like script editor for Series 1 was Helen Rayner, who then wrote the Sontaran two-parter. Do you know what I mean? So that's very exciting to me. So a lot of people just go, I don't care.
But it's important.
But for me,
actually.
that's like,
Yeah.
that is actually really exciting. That is. That's only a rumour because he's like really good friends with Russell. He's worked for Doctor Who and he's in Cardiff at the moment. It's a bit like, why would he be there? So that is exciting for me. A lot of people would just think that's meaningless, but that is, trust me when I say if it's some of the best, when you look at a Big Finish thing and if it says directed by Scott Hancock, you can kind of go, okay, this is going to be good.
Yeah. And it's and having him kind of be on the show now as a script editor means he can kind of just make sure any Russell ideas are in line with, because he'll understand Doctor Who by having written Big Finish and having those be good episodes. Because if you like those Big Finish episodes, they're probably quite good.
Yes.
It just means now that I think, although I know Russell can handle Doctor Who quite well, it's a nice kind of extra buffer in a way, because it's like, if Russell comes up with anything, it's like, not quite Doctor Whoian, like, it's a bit weird that Russell, he can be like, let's
and
go
also
this way.
if Russell writes something that's like perfect, Scott could be like, how about we add this as well? And that's what's exciting. So that is a kind of a little thing that it being really overlooked. But I saw this rumour and like nobody was talking about it. And I thought, why is nobody talking about this? That's dead exciting. But, you know, that's quite niche. The other big rumour that is, of course, going around is this stuff about the 60th. Now, the new rumour is that it's basically going to be the 60th anniversary isn't going to be a one-off special. It's that it's going to be a series of returning doctors having adventures. It's unclear whether these will be connected adventures, disconnected adventures. It's unclear what it will be. But the rumour that's going around is that it's going to be 5 returning doctors.
5?
Across this series. And it's a bit like, who is that 5 going to be?
David?
I think it's pretty, I would say it's 95% certain that David Tennant and Matt Smith will be in it. I think they're the 2 that we can guarantee will be back.
David, at least you can go 100%.
David will definitely be back.
David probably already filmed it.
That's like, I don't think that's even a question. Matt Smith is probably a little bit less certain, but I would say, you know, if I had to put money on it, I'd say yes.
He's available and he's come back.
back.
He's come back for kind of like I'm sure he would.
Yeah, I do think he'd be back. After that, I'm not sure.
Like I'd love Capaldi to come back. I don't have certainty on it though.
No. The one I think we can absolutely 100% rule out is Christopher Eccleston. He will not be back.
Imagine if he is.
Because, well, the reason I thought...
Because it's Big Finish.
Yeah, but I thought that would be cool. But a video has resurfaced where he's talking about... I say resurfaced, people have gone... This rumour came out, people went, oh, Christopher Eccleston could be back. And somebody went, yeah. What? And there was a convention he did, and think in October, where somebody asks him, what was the reason? You know, he's taking questions. Somebody said, come on, what was the reason you left? And he was kind of, it's the most clear I've ever seen him be. And because a lot of the time he says, there were people at the BBC I didn't get on with, so I wanted to leave. In this video, he says, there were 3 people at the BBC that I didn't get on with. They gave me a bad name. We didn't get on. They didn't know what they were doing. I just don't like them as people. Then he says, then he literally names them. He says, those people are Russell T Davies, Phil Collinson, and Julie Gardner. Who are the 3 people that are coming back to do this series?
What do you think they did to...
He says like it was a lot of stuff about like, he said, because he's a very professional, serious actor, isn't he? And he was saying that at any first series of a show I've ever done, nobody really knows what they're doing. But he said with Doctor Who, he said it felt so amateur, like people were just running around, they just didn't have a clue what they were doing. And he said there was a lot of behaviour that things were getting away with, which a lot of stuff we've since learned was Noel Clarke and John Barrowman. He says there was a lot of behaviour and things going on set that were happening. So I reported it to people at the BBC. They said, oh, we don't know anything about this. And then when they came back down to Russell, Julie and Phil, they were like, we never did this. This stuff hasn't happened. And they kind of denied any knowledge of it. So Chris Eccleston was going, I cannot work in this environment, so I want to leave. So that was the reason he left.
Understandable.
And then the BBC issued a statement saying he's tired, he can't do it. And Chris was like, how dare you? That is not the reason I've left. So that's the reason why.
That's a very good reason to leave.
And then
I probably would also have left.
Yes. And then he says in this convention, he says, so I will never return to the show. He says, but I will do Big Finish because it's a completely separate team. He says, I will do Big Finish. I will do these conventions, but I'll never be back in the show.
I feel like there could be a chance he comes back if those three people apologize and kind of really kind of grovel in a way. And if the BBC kind of gets their head out their ass, which honestly I feel like maybe they do because they're getting Russell back.
Yeah, I think if they really, really begged, there could be a chance. But
I think they should, honestly.
I would
frankly.
really say it's like...
Honestly,
like
I
said,
think Christopher deserves an apology like anyway, even not to just get him back. I think, frankly, like that's...
He should, yeah.
Because
I think, like,
we know for a fact that shit was happening on set now. So it's like, I imagine you're on this show where you're getting paid this much and it's just a fucking shit show. And it's like all of this, first off, it's not, I don't know. I can imagine that stress. You're trying to play the lead character here, but you don't really know what's going on any day of the week. And also you've got two people on set who are acting like absolute fucking like sleaze bags, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, how can you work with that? And then for the people who are supposed to kind of run the shit, let that happen. I feel like, honestly, everyone like who got affected by that deserves an official apology, especially Christopher, because he tried to stand up for himself and for the team, like for the people who are being affected by that.
Yeah.
And it kind of got brushed under the rug, which is a bit like, that's quite fucky, to be honest. And I'm not a fan of that.
But yeah, I think that rules. I would say that rules him out.
Rules him out
generally.
unless
something
major happens, which is unlikely. But yes.
Yeah. So of the 5, apparently, like it's unclear whether or not it will be 5, but that's the thing that people are saying.
Mm-hmm.
So if it is 5, Tennant, Smith. Let's say they do get Capaldi back.
I'd love with Capaldi. Why wouldn't they? Like, is it just because he's kind of?
It's just because he said that he doesn't really want to return. And he said that he wouldn't do a multi-doctor special.
But this isn't a
But if this wasn't a multi-doctor special, I think that would already... His ears would prick up and he'd go, well, what is it then? And I think it was like, we're going to give you a spotlight. I think if he was like, it's written by Russell, I think that is a drive to get you in.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is a chance you
I'd
could
love
get
to see Capaldi's Doctor written by Russell.
Yeah.
I'd love to just see that. Be great.
Yeah,
Actually, I'm excited to see Matt's Doctor purely written by Russell.
Yeah.
And like, there's just something about seeing another another writer write a Doctor
that's not their Doctor.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like the other one that I would have loved to have seen, actually, genuinely, would be Jodie Whittaker. I'd love to bring back. However, the reason I'm going to say I don't think she's going to do it is because she's pregnant.
Oh.
And we're going into filming very soon. So she's not going to be available. Because even during pregnant, not going to be available. Immediately after she's had the baby, not going to be available. So I'd say
unless you're like...
Unless you do it like soaps, where they're always carrying soaps or sitcoms, always carrying something in front of them. Do you know what I mean?
Just carrying a companion. No, but...
Or shots from like there up.
Yeah.
But, so I'd say that actually, unfortunately, rules her out, though I would have actually liked that.
But then again, you can always have a comeback later down the line, because we're using up our David Tennants and Matt Smiths. So I feel like for comebacks, we might get like 10, 20 years down the line. It was
That's
like,
true,
Jodie comes back.
She could come back, yeah. So I would say at this point there are the 3.
2
Tennant Smith, absolutely. Capaldi, I would say there is actually a chance.
It's more likely than not.
A lot of people are saying that's not going to happen, but I think actually there is a chance there. Eccleston, I'd say no. Whittaker, I'd say actually, unfortunately, no.
I feel like she would.
I do think she would.
But I don't think she can.
But she can't. That's the annoying thing. I think there is a very high possibility Paul McGann.
I've seen that, yeah. I don't know how I've seen people like being like
saying that. Yeah, I do think that.
I don't know how I've seen that because I get like no Doctor Who.
No,
news,
but you've
that's,
somehow seen.
yes.
I do think that's actually a really high potential.
Yes,
because he's barely aged in any of this time. He kind of basically looks the same as he did in the Night of the Doctor.
Exactly, and we've seen Night of the Doctor, so we know like.
So you can kind of just set this just before. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that is a possibility. He's said a million times that if they ever call him
I'm actually
up,
getting goosebumps from Night of the Doctor because that is such an incredible little thing.
Yeah, I think he's literally said so many times whenever anybody's asked him, would you come back? He says, like, in a heartbeat.
I'd love that.
Like, I think that is very high
possibility.
Because
we've discussed the idea that he was the prototype Doctor for what we get in New Who.
Yeah.
And I just love to see him like properly for like an episode.
In a proper episode for it, yeah. I think that would be really...
Gorgeous.
I would love that. I would really love that. A lot of people could watch it and go, who the hell is this guy? But
the thing is,
it doesn't matter because it's the 60th anniversary and the whole point is it's a celebration.
But in Night of the Doctor, since seeing the movie, like I appreciate him much more. But like when it's still like, I'm the Doctor, but probably not the one you're expecting. That's like, boom, you're the Doctor. Like, it's
Yeah.
you sold me on it instantly. That you were back, you were in. Like, he fet. I'm struggling to talk. I'm excited for Batman. I'm slow. Penguin, Cobblepot, Catwoman. I'm just. But I think Paul McGann coming back would be something just gorgeous. It'd be so good because when he came back for Night of the Doctor, it was like he never left.
Yeah.
And I think that is a testament to someone who knows the character, and as we've just said, like, he's lived and breathed the character since on Big Finish.
Yeah.
He's never really ever left.
No.
And isn't he like the longest running Doctor technically? Like,
If you count how long he's been doing it
Exactly.
consistently. Because obviously McCoy and etc. Baker, Davison, they came back to do Big Finish and they've been doing it since the 90s, but they had like 10 years off. Whereas Eccleston, McGann, he has 1996, disappears for 97, 98, 99, 2000. From 2001 onwards, he's back. And he's not gone away.
exactly. So I do think, like,
And he's got like 17 box sets coming out this year or something.
I do think just he'd fit the role perfectly on screen again. Just perfectly.
Because that's what's,
and what
because we've said that about like how he's the transition between it, but I've listened to the Time War series that he does, and that's basically because like a lot of his stuff they try to in the style of Classic Who, but the Time War stuff is in the style of New Who, and they're so good. My number one Big Finish ever is from that range. I think you can so easily pluck him out, drop him into New Who, and it won't feel.
it's
Like
seamless.
you won't go like, oh, this feels wrong. You've got like the wrong ear of Doctor. You just be like, I completely.
Because that's
Because I bet you could even do that and get some kind of more casual people going, oh, so is this the next Doctor then? Like, I genuinely think people would just accept it.
imagine
Be
when
like,
it
no,
comes
this is
to
the guy from 25 years
Yeah.
ago. But yeah, that's the rumours for this week.
That was a lot of rumors.
Well, it was actually only 2.
We
Really,
just blab a
but we
lot.
just,
We blah 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 blah.
We find them very exciting to talk about. But yes, let's go back to the Empty Child, the Doctor Dancers. Is there anywhere specific you want to dive in?
Yes.
go.
Time agents. What are they?
It's funny you say that. I've been listening to The Adventures of Captain Jack, basically. Big Finish series about Captain Jack.
Okay.
It's not Doctor Who, it's not Torchwood, it's dibs in and out. And there was one about his time as a time agent. So his real name is Yavik Piotr Thane. That's his real name. He was born in the
I like Jack.
born in the 51st century. Stuff happened on this planet, the Beauchene Peninsula. See where the names come from. Beauchene is the name of the planet. Or well, it's not. We're not sure if that's the planet or area on Earth. Do you know what I mean? It's unclear. But basically, this happens. He gets separated from his family. These things happen. He joins the Time Agency. He works for them. He does missions. One of those missions is he gets sent to 1940s war, where he meets a man called Captain Jack Harkness. Captain Jack Harkness gets killed. He thinks, I liked you, Captain Jack. I don't like my name very much. I'm going to take your name.
Let's say he honors Captain Jack.
Yes, basically, that's basically
Yeah.
the thing. There's an episode of Torchwood where he gets reunited with Captain Jack, the real Captain Jack, basically. So that's where that name comes from. So his name isn't actually Captain Jack, but it is now. So he does these missions and stuff, and then he finds out that they've erased 2 years of his life. He doesn't know why, but he wants answers. So he goes to them, tries to find answers. He doesn't get the answers. He just leaves, goes off.
Fair
He
enough.
Leaves the time agency, goes off to do his own things. Does stuff, lives a life. At some point, he then ends up in 1940s again, where he meets the Doctor. He does the con man thing, all this stuff that we see. So that's, very briefly catching you up to where we are. But no, it's really fascinating. And I really like him as a character.
As a character, fascinating.
Yeah, so actually, with all that in mind and all this kind of stuff that you've seen, because like I said, I've not seen the last 2 series of Torchwood. Ironically, they're supposed to be the best ones, and they're the ones where I went, oh, whatever, I can't be bothered with this show anymore. But yeah, I think this is a really good introduction to him, because it's like the introduction for this character. You get a good sense of who he is. But obviously, retrospectively, we've already got loads of stuff before this, and it's kind of actually this. You kind of just place, oh, we've actually got all this history there that leads up to this point. And I kind of think, even knowing that, thinking about at the time when they're just introducing him, because Russell said to Stephen, create a new companion for me. And that was, you know, he created Captain Jack, that kind of thing. I just think it's a really, really nice introduction for the character. Because like you said, he's dodgy. He's a con man. He's doing this kind of really bad thing because he essentially is the cause of this entire episode. If it wasn't for Jack, this wouldn't have happened. But you get this man who is actually like, he charms Rose. You can see actually the Doctor's like, I don't like you, but I do. You can see he's actually charming the Doctor as well. And then especially to the point where at the end of the episode, he does sacrifice himself. Obviously, the Doctor then rescues him. But as far as Jack is concerned, he is sacrificing himself to go into space and blow this thing up.
I feel like no, he didn't know he was sacrificing, like he was saving them, but he thought he could survive. But in the end, he still like accepts the fact.
Yeah, but I think he knew, like...
There was a chance, obviously.
I think he was like, I know this is most likely going to kill me. I could perhaps get out, but this is most likely going to kill me. So he does essentially sacrifice himself. He's ready to go, and then he gets a second chance. The Doctor obviously was impressed with him because he invites him on board. So you know there is a sense that he does like him.
He
there.
doesn't just save him. He invites him on
and
board,
I just like think Jack as a character. I love Jack. I really do. I think he's like one of the, you know, people always say he's like one of the most like iconic additions to Doctor Who, of New Who, that they've done. And I agree, like him and River Song, kind of really two standout characters that they've kind of just introduced. And I think this is a really great way to introduce him, because you don't have to introduce him at the beginning of his life, because I think that would then limit you what you can then add on later on.
Honestly, it's a really interesting way to introduce a companion, because we get someone like we've met companions in the middle of their lives, and it's like, I am going to school now because I'm a teacher, and it's like, that's quite boring. But with, can you tell I was referencing?
Yes.
But with Jack, it's like you have this character who is like, I've said before, like I just want companions that aren't contemporary. Sometimes give us someone who isn't, and Jack's like the most not contemporary you can get, an immortal being who becomes immortal because of the Doctor, and then just does other shit, and is like, we don't really know what's happened before, and it's a really interesting character, which has a lot of layers to him, because a lot with the companions, you do get a companion who is in love with the Doctor and is reciprocating love with the Doctor, and isn't reciprocated, then becomes a soldier. Then you have layers to these characters. One that's just a teacher and a bit of an asshole. You have these layers to these characters, but they're all
still limited, modern human people.
And they're a bit limited. But with Jack, honestly, you have an infinite amount of layers with that, because you have this good guy who was a bad guy, maybe. And honestly, he could have been an absolute murderer in those 2 years. We don't know. Do we ever find out in Torchwood?
I believe it's still a mystery.
We don't. So then we don't know. We know Jack wants to be a good guy.
There's an episode where they meet this guy who's like obviously like an alien in human form, and he basically has the power to. Basically, what he does is he appears at Torchwood, kind of touches people, and they all think he's been there for like years. So he basically intercepts them by creating fake memories. But as well as creating fake memories, he can restore memories, and he basically gives Jack this chance to like, I can restore those 2 years. But like, you know, he would lose Torchwood and all his plan would work. So Jack says, I'll keep those 2 years. I want, you know what I'm trying to say. Yeah,
classic kind of, you can have the 2 years back, but I win.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. So I believe that's the closest we've come. But we don't really know what happened. You just got to assume that the Time Agency sent him on like really abhorrent missions and made him do bad things and maybe this kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe he enjoyed it in the end.
And then they just erased his memory so he wouldn't remember
we don't
that.
know.
And don't know what the Time Agency are really up to.
But it's
kind of the one I was listening to the other day was called Month 25. And as I was listening to it, then he goes to investigate who's been meddling, that kind of thing. He finds that here's the boss, but that's not really the boss. Here's the big boss. And I was listening to this and I was going, wasn't this the plot of Loki? Because this is literally the plot. Who's been meddling? Oh, it's not this person, it's this person. It's going, Doctor Who did this 3 years before, but on audio, so nobody noticed.
Someone noticed.
But yeah. So, basically the point is I think he's really well introduced.
Captain Jack.
He's immediately, obviously, here's all this stuff I've explained that comes afterwards. Really interesting. But even here, you're still like, so who is this guy?
By giving him that background, You make him interesting because you want to know more. And it's not just the idea of background. Like, background doesn't inherently mean interesting, but it's like it's a really interesting background.
Yeah, backstory doesn't equal interesting.
But
it's like a lot of people, if you say, here's what led them to do this, you go, oh, that's interesting. And even to the point where we still don't know all of Jack's backstory. And because he's immortal, we don't know that full timeline.
Just interesting. Very interesting. And I like the character. I do.
Yes, so that's that. Now, the question I want to ask, because when I watched Doctor Who as a kid, I remember I had friends in school who used to watch it as well. I remember that people used to come to my house, watch it, that kind of thing.
My friends didn't like Doctor Who.
Oh, how sad. But I remember there was a time, two of my friends, How and Sam, I'll say them, give them a little shout out because they definitely don't listen and I don't really speak to them anymore. But that's not the point. They came to my house once and they were like, let's watch Doctor Who. And they were like, Aidan, pick an episode. I'm talking like years ago.
Aidan, pick an episode. That kind of thing.
Yeah, but Aidan, let's pick an episode of Doctor Who to watch. It'd be like that.
Okay.
It'd be like, okay, let's all go with Doctor Who now. So I picked this episode. I picked the episode, Dr. Dancers. And my God, I have never seen more scared children in my life. I was a child, but I still remember them being absolutely terrifying.
Oh, amazing.
To the point where, like, if I ever was in secondary school, I was in the same science class as them both. And sometimes you'd get talking about stuff, reminiscing about the good old days. And there was one time we were talking about Doctor Who. Oh, Aidan, remember you used to love Doctor Who? I still do, that kind of thing. Then I remember them both going, do you remember that one where they were going, oh, you my mummy? And I'm pretty sure not too long ago I spoke to How, and he again mentioned this episode. And the power of that to have stuck with them. People that do not watch Doctor Who anymore. Well, to be fair, Sam used to watch the Capaldia, but that's not the point. People do not watch Doctor Who anymore. Just remember this. And something I see very often, it is Eccleston's favourite episode, he's said that many times, but one thing I see very, very often is that people say this is the scariest ever episode of Doctor Who. I'm going to say to you now, is it?
Is it the scariest ever? To me?
Subjectively and objectively.
Yeah. To me, I find aliens very scary.
Yes.
And the way you were describing your two friends there, how they were reacting to Empty Child, is how I react to Alien. And that is how it feels to me. That kind of thing. We recently did a watch through of the first two Aliens, and my screaming, I think, scared you more than the actual
I didn't
aliens.
jump at the film. No. The only time I jumped at the film was when Sigourney Weaver woke up, went, and I was like, oh, it was the only time that made me jump. The thing that made me jump when we were watching it was you going, duh! Every Tuesday, duh! I was like, what?
I was so tense. No, but like basically the point is, I can understand that kind of fear and that kind of thing, and alien things are what scare me, really.
Yes.
That is what really gets to me, because that's where my fear center of my brain seems to be. So, subjectively, is this the scariest ever episode of Doctor Who?
Not to you.
Not to me. I struggle to give you the scariest episode.
Yeah.
Because what I'll do is next time I'll do a full watch at some point. I will be. And I'll have it in my mind, what is the scariest episode? Because subjectively, doesn't frighten me to death. It doesn't. Whereas if I see the silence, I find those things inherently scarier to me. But objectively, as an all-rounded scary thing, I would say it is the scariest episode of Doctor Who, because it has every layer of horror. It has the tension. It has something which is close to human, and a child being scary is like horror classic. You have that, and you make it something very kind of creepy. And you have like an abandoned hospital, which I would say is actually probably one of my favorite locations we've ever been in Doctor Who. Like, it's a beautiful set. It's got like, it feels like the same place they shot
Order of Time?
That's the one.
Potentially. Not sure.
I was going to say Master, and like, yeah. But it feels like... I'm a fucking idiot. But like... Yeah, no, I'd say the Empty Child and the Doctor Dance it is very scary, and I did find it very creepy in places. But I'm like, that's just a kid in a gas mask. Just knock it off. Just like,
Yeah. No, I'm
grab the kid by
definitely-
like the boots. And
the
just throw him.
scariest episode that I know, and it actually still genuinely creeps me out, which I'm like, get over yourself. You've seen this. This is 11 years old. Sort yourself out.
Bash Narada, actually, I'd say that one. Those two I find scarier.
Well, we can maybe talk about that next week.
Oh.
But the most scared I've ever been at Doctor Who is, you know, the one where they shrink down and go into the dollhouse. Matt Smith episode.
Doesn't ring a bell.
Not remember it.
No,
Shall I find an image?
please.
Jog your memory.
Thank you.
But yeah, that's
That doesn't happen often. Me not remembering.
Do you know why it is?
Why?
Because it's in the second half of Series 6.
That's. We've really figured out where I dropped off, haven't we? Fucking hell.
Yeah, but that's the episode, Night Terrors it's called. It was the Mark Gatiss one, actually. But it's the genuinely, when I see them, fucking dolls to this day, I'm like, fuck off. So yeah, that's the most scared I've ever been of Doctor Who. So I'd say that's the scariest monster for me. But I would like, if somebody said to me, this is the scariest kind of thing, if somebody said to me, this is the scariest episode of Doctor Who, I'd go, I'm totally with you. Because the way it builds tension all the way through, and even when it gives you bits and gives you more, it is like, that is proper creepy. I wrote a few bits down, like the monster being the kid. Are you my mummy? That
It's
is-
inherent. It's brilliant.
like creepy kids. Oh,
The thing that I found really creepy is, you know, when it does that close up of the eyes and you see there is nothing behind
Yeah.
them.
yeah, that's actually a thing I was
Fucking
watching
hell.
because obviously. Because I'm watching with my boyfriend and a lot of new perspectives, that kind of thing. The one thing I'm watching along with it is Doctor Who Confidential. And there was a great bit in Doctor Who Confidential where it's kind of like the table read of it. And Moffat's talking about his vision for what it is. And you think about it, it's called The Empty Child. And basically what Moffat's describing, because they're talking to the production team thing, he said, imagine like you've got a case. It looks like a child, but there is nothing inside. There is literally nothing. Then he like goes, it is an empty child. And he says like that. And he goes, so like the mask is the face. I think that's like the really important, you kind of think about that. Like when they say like, oh, the mask isn't welded on, that is literally the skin. That's when you go, that is so weird. Like the idea that they all have the exact same injuries as well. That's proper like, oh,
Because I think the injury is. I love how that is explained as well.
Because they think, because the nanogenes think that's the template for the human. That's what humans look like. Let's make them all look like that.
That isn't an injury. That's just what they are.
Yeah, I love that idea. But yeah, just the idea that you've got this creepy kid with black eyes, no eyes.
But there is not, like when they do the zoom in, you see the back of the head, like
Yeah.
inside. There is
Yeah.
nothing in there.
Yeah, what I also love, like, again, from that perspective is, what do you know, to be fair, I think this still looks great. You know, when Constantine turns into the gas mask, the Doctor,
When you say Constantine, I was like, John Constantine.
Keanu Reeves.
I was like, oh my God. No, when he turns into the gas mask.
I think that still looks
fucking
good.
disgusting. Like
Yeah.
amazing. Like that, I would say that's probably the turning into the thing is like one of the scary, like it is one of the scariest things I've seen, the way it's done. Just the choking.
I think it
and
still holds up as
bleh.
well. But the thing I was going to say is, when you were listening, did you hear, when it does it, you can hear kind of like a cracking noise.
Yeah.
That you can only hear on like BBC iPlayer and the DVD. When it originally went out, the BBC said, you are not putting that sound on. That is too scary. So they just kind of did like creaky, leathery sounds as it's turning. But then Moffat said like they all loved the idea of the bones cracking and his skull changing shape. So they kind of like went, put on the DVD. Let's scare children. And that was, they purposely did that.
The eyes as well. When it
Yeah, and when you even like later on, when they obviously can't afford to do the effect again, so you get them sideways on. Even when you get it coming out of the mouth, then it's like still like, it's very like American Whale for London, just kind of way, just yeah, that's
grotesque,
pure
horrifying.
audio
Love it.
only version there.
Thank you.
I'm not here. But yeah.
Oh,
What am I doing?
I don't.
But yeah, I genuinely think, yes, the CGI does look a bit dated. It does. However, I do think it still holds up.
It's weird. It's like at the point of, I'd say with the whole Eccleston era, the CGI is like at a point where it's like dated, but good.
But I believe it.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like it hasn't got to the point where it's all like the shit like the Matt Smith series CGI. I feel like is worse.
I think
in
a
a
lot.
way.
I think a lot generally CGI. I think a lot of CGI has got, of course, better, but I think a lot of CGI has regressed. Big example, of course, famous example being Infinity War. When you see Bruce Banner when he pops out of the Hulkbuster. I don't know if you know the scene I mean. There's a shot where the Hulkbuster's in the background and the top opens and Bruce Banner comes up and it looks horrendous.
Oh, wow.
It looks like classic Doctor Who. You're like, I remember being in the cinema going, like pointing like to my friend going, look at that, look at that. Like it looks awful.
Yeah.
And then I kind of think like, you see a thing like this and I kind of go, how have you done that better than Disney? Do you know what I mean? But I genuinely think that still holds up. Other bits I wrote, perhaps the scariest bit for me at least is, hold on, I'll come on to that bit in a moment. No, I'll do that now. Scariest bit for me at least, I reckon, yes, this, perhaps a negative about this is on rewatch, it does lose the effect because you know it's coming. But when they're in the child's room,
I was going to say
and
exactly
they're talking,
the same
and
thing.
the interview's just going on, and you just think it's still going on, and the doctor just goes, "The tape's run out," and you go, "Oh damn!" And then they turn around, and it's there.
If the tape has run out, problem.
And then they turn around, "Are you?" And he's like, "Oh." I genuinely, that is still scary. Yes, when you rewatch and you know it's coming, you know it's coming.
Turns around and you get this. I say hello.
Yeah, if you know it's coming, I think it does kind of ruin it a little bit. But I still
spotted
think it's
like when I heard
effective.
I was like, tape's run out.
Yeah.
But it's still fucking creepy because it's like, where is this kid?
And you're also thinking, when are they going to notice that?
Are they going to notice too late?
Yeah.
And then the kid, I feel like the kid's just like, come on, I want to be scary. Like I could get him, but I want him to turn around so I can be like, hi, you're my mummy. And also, I just wanted to say, I love the moment where, like in The Poison Sky, where Tennant puts on the gas mask and just goes, "Are you my mummy?"
Improvise.
I know, it's great. It's such a good moment because it's like I've said before, moments which kind of reminisce about old, like previous episodes, previous Doctors' experiences, even slightly. It's important without feeling ham-fisted, but that's like a really good bit. Sorry. Yeah. Tennant, this is a problem, I think, with me and Doctor Who. If you get me like anything that even could hint at Tennant, I'm like,
So that Tennant guy, really good.
I love the Poison Sky episode.
Yeah.
But no, like the kid, like I think there are a lot of really kind of creepy moments in this, like especially when the kid first shows up, puts his hand through the door.
Oh, the thing I love about that as well is that it would be so easy for them there to go, when you go, don't look at it, Doctor, be like, right, here's my threat, stand back, you know, that kind of thing. But he's still like, that's a kid outside. You've got all this food in here. Why aren't we letting this kid in? I love that kind of like his compassion comes forward first.
But also he's not stupid. Like he doesn't just grab a hand.
He doesn't just go, oh, let's get this kid in. But he's like thinking, why are you being so cruel to this kid? That's a kid. Why are you being cruel to him? And he's actually like...
And then when she said, like when he said about being left out in the cold and she was like, well, you wouldn't know anything about it. And I was like, I would. I'd know a lot about being the only person left. And then
like all the stuff with like all the phones and stuff, that's creepy. And when the TARDIS even rings at the start, this phone shouldn't ring. It's not a real phone. Why is it then? It really builds
and
attention.
I think Eccleston sells it a lot. Without Eccleston, his acting, I feel like a lot of these moments wouldn't sell. Like the thing with the phone, that is him acting with a piece of metal, basically. Yeah. And he's able to sell that on the idea of it is something that shouldn't do anything. And he's entertained by it not doing anything, fucking terrified by the fact that it's like, the TARDIS is my safe space. This thing shouldn't do this. Why is it doing this? I love how old the TARDIS's telephone is, by the way, compared to what we get later on.
Yeah, because
he puts a proper one in.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, does David Tennant ever use it? I'm not sure if he does.
No. I can give you Matt.
I can think of Matt using it, and then Capaldi obviously patches it through to the console, so he has it just at the console, not at the door. I believe even Jodie Whittaker uses it at the console at some point.
Tennant blocked everyone on his phone.
Yeah.
Fuck these people.
He's like, sod you. I'm just going to moan about Rose for 3 series. I don't need other people.
I love how that sounds like just... You say it like that and it's like, God, that was shit.
But actually, it's like Doctor Who's golden age.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Because at the end of the day, essentially, if you
really shit like football commentator, at the end of the day...
At the end of the day, if you really boil this down, like really, what is this in one sentence? And really strip it down, it's a zombie story.
Yeah.
Really strip it down. It's a zombie story, but are you a fan of zombies?
I thought you were going to say you're my mummy and I was going to shit myself.
Are you my mummy?
Am I a fan of zombies?
Are you a fan of zombies?
In films, they can be
just
boring.
Generally zombies. If you see like here's a new zombie film, here's a new zombie series, would you be drawn to it?
Inherently,
Yeah.
no. But I can.
Me.
But I can tell you, I love the Last of Us games, and they are if not the best games ever made. They are incredible. They are zombie games.
Yeah.
I also like some zombie films, and I enjoy the idea of it when it's done right. I love the Walking Dead games and the Walking Dead kind of comic book series in a way. I haven't actually seen the TV show, but I'm tempted to because of the games.
Going on for about 17 years.
Well, the final season is continuing, which doesn't make sense, but it is.
And they've commissioned like 6 spin-offs.
Yeah, but the point is, like, I find when zombie stuff is done well, I adore it. Like the Walking Dead games, the Telltale games, fucking incredible. Like just fucking amazing.
You wouldn't generally
but
be
it's
like,
not, but
I'm a fan of zombie things.
But it's not zombies that drew me to these things.
It's like the character
It's the
stuff
fact it's
around it,
maybe
yeah.
scary, which is fun. But it was the reviews I've heard of people of it being really good characters and that kind of thing.
Yeah, because I'm similar. I like, if somebody goes, here's a zombie thing, I think, ugh, zombies. I generally don't. Kind of thing I wouldn't really ever choose to put on. But then I can think of things I've enjoyed. Yes, 2 of them are spoofs, because they are Shaun of the Dead and Cockneys versus Zombies, which genuinely is actually a good film, despite the name. I like them. I even like World War Z. A lot of people give that some flack.
I like it.
But I like that. With Capaldi playing a character called Who Doctor, which I love. I like that. I've seen instances but then even like 28 days later, people love it. I fell asleep through it.
Haven't seen it.
It's all right. It's got Chris Roxon's in it, actually.
Oh,
but yeah, I generally don't really like zombies. But if you really boil this down, it is essentially zombies. The monsters, as I said in the intro, are called gas mask zombies because they are. And I really like the way they do it because it isn't just the brains. You know what I mean? It's like we're doing it in an interesting way where they are. If they touch you, you will become them. They do that with a lot of zombies. You kind of do that. They'll eat your brains, that kind of thing.
They'll bite you and you can turn into one. That kind of thing.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Essentially, but in this case, it's just they'll touch you and do it. It's zombies. It's dead people walking, though technically they're not dead. But whatever, they're mindless.
Well,
creatures.
they are technically dead until they're fixed. Like they are dead. If you take that mask off, there's nothing inside. But they had to be fully.
Yeah, but they still have like a heart rate and stuff and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, they are zombies. But I really enjoy the way they do it because it's like they're interesting zombies. There's a reason why they're zombies. They can actually be fixed. They're not just mindless, generic things moving about. And then obviously 28 days later, the one that goes, let's do this really revolutionary thing for zombies. They can run. And it's like, oh, they're still zombies though, aren't they? Like this is like...
Not really revolutionary.
This is revolutionary thing to do with zombies. It's a great way to do it. I really appreciate that. We are running out of time, so... Anywhere other bits you want to say? I've got, obviously, there's the ending, but we'll come on to that.
I just want to praise Christopher Eccleston for a second here. Like, I know he said, like, he's the reason all the scary stuff works. He's fucking amazing. Like, he's just, he puts so much realism into the role. Like, so much, like, this is a real person, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. And I think without it, you'd have a very kind of, because Doctor Who is a bit camp, as you've said, but by giving us this series where the Doctor is very much a real person, it kind of spawned all of New Who by being like that. And you can say Russell T Davies wrote it like that, and yes, he did. But if you'd have cast Rowan Atkinson in the role, as he has played the Doctor before, you wouldn't have got, or to be fair, you may have done, because Rowan Atkinson, he can actually play a serious role really well. Fuck.
I think the point is, Christopher Eccleston is actually a very, very serious actor.
Yes, so he took it seriously.
What's interesting about him being cast was the reason that, because like, Russell had worked with Chris before, but when they were like drawing up a short list of like actors they'd want to be the Doctor, he wasn't even like on this list.
Who was on there?
I think like Bill Nighy was, Alan Cumming was, a few names kind of like that. He was Hugh
Jackman.
I can never remember if it's Laurie or Grant. I think it was Grant. I always get them muddled up.
Well, if it's Hugh Laurie, then that's House.
It's the Paddington one. That's Grant, isn't it? The one who's played Doctor Who before. That's Grant, isn't it?
Laurie did Laurel and
yeah, it's Grant. Hugh Grant. He was that kind of Edwardian, I'm an English gentleman, you know, those kind of actors. He wasn't even considered. The reason why Chris got the role was because Chris saw the announcement that Russell was doing Doctor Who. He thought, that's interesting. I've worked with Russell. I thought he was a very serious political writer. Why is he doing Doctor Who? He must be doing something very interesting with this. Chris thought, I've done a lot of stuff, very serious stuff for adults. I'd quite like to do a family-oriented thing. So he phoned Russell, or no, he emailed Russell and he said, can you consider me for an audition, please? So the audition they gave him, because
That's quite sweet, that. Hello, Mr. Russell T. Davies.
That's basically what the email said.
Could I give it a go, please?
Yeah, and they kind of all went, oh, I would never have imagined him. Russell has admitted this. Like, I would never have considered Chris in a million years. So the audition they gave him, because they thought he was a very serious Shakespearean kind of actor, they gave him, you know, the scene in Rose where he's fighting with the arm. They kind of just threw in a plastic arm at him.
Smart, like kind of. Yeah. Let's see you. We're going to be going to this point. It's weird, but can you play it?
Yeah, they gave him the plastic arm and went wrestle with it, and he did all the stuff with it, and they all like found it funny, and they went great. So they gave him a second audition where they then made him do the serious stuff, and they went, I think we've found our man. And what I love about Chris is like he is playing. I think you've called him once like the moody doctor, and I think it's not the word I'd use because he's actually very funny and very cheery. The word I'd use is he's the damaged doctor.
Yes.
More than anything, is that he's still funny. He's kind of like, you know, you see like the tears of a clown kind of thing. He is still very funny, and probably one of my favorite scenes. Obviously, my favorite scene is the Everybody Lives. We'll come on to that very soon. But my favorite moment is where they're just passing around the meat or the potatoes, whatever it is, as they're going around the table. And they go, it's like, some for me, thanks. And he just takes it off. And everyone's like, what? I love that bit because it's so funny.
Yeah, that whole kind of dinner table scene is great. Like, it's just like really quite, like, just a really kind of sweet scene. And then the doctor's just like crouched down all of a sudden, like that. You're like, but that's so the doctor. Like, from there on out, we've seen so many instances where the doctor's just done weird shit
weird
like that.
Stuff like that,
Because that's the thing. The Doctor is a fucking weird person. Kind of weird. You would be. He's an alien. He's a bit weird. But Christopher kind of played it serious. And that, like, I think this is why I think the weirdness works so well for Eccleston here. Whereas with some of Matt's later stuff,
too weird.
It doesn't. Because he's playing it weird. The weird stuff he's playing weird. Whereas Eccleston's playing the weird stuff seriously. Because I think for the Doctor, he's doing weird shit, but it's normal for him. So why would he be doing weird shit? Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, I think Eccleston's a really strong part of it because it is a very dark episode. It is a very dark episode, but it does have those light moments. I think it's like a really nice kind of
it's human condition. It's important actually.
Bounce between them because this is a damaged man, but he's also trying to help put on a brave face and be a bit more positive. And I think, like you said, he is a very strong part of it.
Honestly, I think, well, not honestly, I know this is what got me. Like, if ever I see something with Eccleston's name on these days, I'm like, I'm interested in that. You know? Yeah. And that's all because of Doctor Who. That's all because of him.
To be fair, I'm like that with all New Who Doctors. Actually, maybe even all Doctors.
Like, with Capaldi, actually, Doctor Who made me like Capaldi. All of, like...
It's good. It's one of those things that I find really interesting. I watch a lot of stuff that I probably wouldn't ordinarily watch. But if it's got David Tennant's name on it, I'll go and watch that. It's got Matt Smith's name on it. Like Morbius. I have no interest in Morbius whatsoever. However, Matt Smith is in it, and I'm thinking, I'm not going to go to the cinema for it. I'm not spending money on this. But if it pops up on Disney Plus or Netflix, I shall watch that. Why? Because of Matt Smith. And there's that kind of thing. There's a lot of Capaldi.
I don't really know what role he's playing. But I'm excited to see it.
He's only in the trailer for about 10 seconds.
I know. So he's probably like...
I do appreciate Doctor Who for that, kind of giving me actors that It's weird how you get attached to them. Isn't it? Even companions. Well, companions I'll like go, oh, Billy Piper's in that, I'll give that a go. Catherine Tate's in that, I'll give that a go. Even actually Jenna Coleman, I
think Jenna Coleman's in better in other stuff. Like, that's the thing.
I wish she was in that Victoria. Victoria was quite good, that was. And I only watched that because I thought, oh, it's Jenna Coleman. I'll watch that.
I think she's better in other stuff. I just think like the way Clara, Jenna Coleman, I think she's a good actor. Just the way Clara was written, honestly. Yeah. Clara just wasn't a good character.
For another conversation for another time.
Yes.
Nancy, do you want a brief thing, or we've already talked about her, I guess?
Interesting, tragic, well acted, good. There you go.
Yeah, I do like that. Actually, the thing you were saying, like the twist about her being a mother, you can see like it is alluded to a lot because she is saying like, "Oh, it's not my brother." You think, well, why not? There's a lot of the bit where she's caring for all those children, it's very motherly instincts. A lot of time when she goes off to do other things, she still goes back to check on them. And I really like that detail that she's still like, just gonna go check the kids are all right. And I kind of like that. That's when you kind of go, I think there's a bit more to this character than you're letting on.
Like it hints towards it if you know it's there.
If you
but
know
also
it's there,
quite easy to
you
think it's just a brother sister
suspect
thing.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
Rose, I don't really have many things to say. I don't know if she's really particularly spectacular in this episode.
It's like Rose goes and meet, like I think she's good, but it's like
I do
focus.
like the whole Doctor Dancer stuff. No, we've not really talked about that much because we're really running out of time and we'll get locked in this building. But I like it's kind of think the Doctor Who reference that you just skip over as a child, then you watch as an adult and you go, I know what you're talking about. When
Sex.
When she goes, has the Doctor ever danced? And I kind of like, because she gets the flirty stuff with David Tennant that obviously does begin with Eccleston, because like when David Tennant first arrives, she's like going, you're not the Doctor. And she says to Jackie, I loved him. This isn't him. I wanted the man I love. And then she falls in love with him again.
I mean, it's David Tennant.
Yes, I would say she is kind of drawn to him here, but I don't think it comes across like she's specifically flirting with him.
I think maybe there's a fascination there.
It's definitely flirtatious, but I think it's a bit more like she's teasing. Like she's kind of just like thinking, there's no way you've ever done like that.
Yeah.
And it's almost like she's going, it's like she's thinking up to this point, she goes, I quite fancy him, whatever. Like, I'm amazed with this man, but that's never going to happen. He's an alien. And then when she goes, you've never danced. And he goes, I've danced. I think when she then knows, oh, he has, that's when she thinks, right, I'm going to get into this man's pants. I think that's when she kind of thinks that.
Because it kind of opens that avenue of the idea of him having sex.
Yes,
him
having
dancing.
families and things like that.
Because it was just like
900-year-old alien.
That's what he is. But he can also do, that works.
Ooh.
That's an option. It's interesting. And I think it's like, she would not toy with I don't know how to say the idea. Like, it's like, oh, interesting. Curious. Wouldn't stop it. Not really going to go for it.
But let's just see.
Yeah. Tennant comes around.
But then that's also what a great parallel that then Jack has, because it's like she's thinking, oh, I fancy this man. Nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen. Oh, hello, Jack. You're basically the Doctor. If he was American, I like you. Oh, the Doctor dances as well. Oh, let's go back to him. Then Jack comes back and he's like, oh, now I've got options.
And ultimately chooses the Doctor.
Yes, well, because they abandoned Jack.
No, but with the dancing at the end of the episode.
I suppose so, but I like where the Doctor's like going, he does want to dance. But with who? I like that bit as well. Ending. Here we go. Before we get stuck in this building.
Don't you want to mention your favourite moment?
It is my favourite moment.
I thought you just meant the end of the podcast.
No, I mean the end of the scene. Everybody lives.
Everybody lives. Brilliant, because it is.
I cry.
I don't. It doesn't make me cry. I thought it would. It didn't. It's just, I don't know why. Still great, but it just didn't make me cry. I was like, this is great and beautiful.
The two bits that make me cry in this episode. First one is when he says, there is no little boy who would not tear the whole world apart to find his mother. That line gets me. The other one is, everybody lives, because it's the idea of this man who's been through the time when he's lost every single thing. And he just thinks like time and time again. Like you think he's even faced the Daleks by this point. He's thinking, I lose everything all the time. All these Daleks survive and they come back and they wipe everything from me. But just this once, I get everybody alive. And this is probably like one of like 3 times or something this has ever happened in Doctor Who. There's always...
Not a single person died.
Always deaths. You know, Capaldi bloody just kills some people sometimes. Have this ball. Oh, he's got shot. Oops. You know what I mean? That kind of, you did that on purpose, didn't you? But I love it. I just love that it's just like finally it's like the character finally got a break. Do you know what I mean?
He needed it finally.
And then it's like
the idea that like you know exactly what you're saying. Like the trauma of like the time where he's seen loss constantly. The dude needed it. He needed just some sort of win. Needed a win. You know, just something bright and happy. Just something like. But it's not just bright and happy for the sake of just chance. It's like bright and happy because he had a huge input on this. You know, he won and saved everyone. And also he got to see something quite beautiful, which is parental love.
Do you think that does bother me about the Everybody Lives scene? Is when he goes to the kid. I love it when he goes, just this once, just give me this. Love that bit. Should have been more gentle with that mask. Because if it wasn't right, he would have just like tipped the child back, wouldn't
The
he?
kid
And
standing
just-
there, rips the mask off,
Yeah,
neck gets broken.
that's the only bit where I think like just be a bit gentle and then go, oh yes, and then lift it. We kind of just go straight away. Only bit that bothers me, but the only negatives I have about this episode are, I suppose that's just really petty. I'd say my other one would probably be, like I've said, a lot of twist reveals aren't as effective on rewatch. Like I don't think the mother thing is as effective. I don't think the tape thing is as effective. I'd say my one thing where I go, this is an actual negative and I'm not just nitpicking, is the cliffhanger at the end of Empty Child, which then leads to the resolution where we're backed against the wall. Go to your room. I felt like it's such like an underwhelming kind of. Do you know what I mean?
It feels like a
can't-
cliffhanger for the sake of a cliffhanger.
Yeah, it does. It just feels like I've got this one of the kind of case where I say I've got a story. It's not going to fit in one episode, so I need to stretch it over two. Where do I need to divide this somewhere? I'll just split it there. I'll find something. That's my only That's my only genuine negative with this. Where I'm kind of thinking it's really, it's a kind of pathetic resolution. Go to your room. It's kind of cool and interesting.
It's well done.
I
Like, well
I
acted.
like the way the doctor just goes, take a gamble. Or go to your room. I do like that, but I kind of think like as a resolution to a cliffhanger,
You haven't gone
I think it needs to
anywhere.
be a bit more bold.
But it isn't really a resolution either. Well, it is a resolution because it's literally they're coming. Now they all go back to exactly where they were. So it's
Yeah.
like for 3 minutes problem. But
It's
before
like
and
we're
after,
backed
it's
against the wall
exactly
for
the
the sake
same.
of being backed against a wall.
It's exactly the same.
Yeah.
Could you not have had like
If this wasn't a two-parter, like you'd have just seen them and then they'd have left. That whole bit where they get up out of bed, go over there, then get back into bed, just wouldn't have happened.
you could have maybe just had something where it's like the doctor finds out something, or like, you know, have the cliffhanger be a bit of knowledge rather than an actual threat, maybe. That kind of thing. The only negative point I have actually is, Rose, why the hell did you not just let go of the rope the moment it started flying away? Because you had a good amount of time to drop onto the roof instead of be like, no, I'm staying. Why did she
Very
think?
good point.
Why did she think, like, when she was this far off the ground, this will be good?
Cool, where we're going now? Yeah.
Bit silly.
It is a bit silly.
Bit silly. But good job she did, because then she managed to get saved by Captain Jack, which, God, I'm very impressed by her ability to hold onto a rope, to be honest.
For that long.
Because honestly, it would have been like, oh, you've lost me already. Like, as any weight is put on, my arms would have been like, no, thank you.
Yeah, because I don't know if you've had. Have you ever had rope burn?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had rope. It's like kills, that does. So I would not have been able to hold on for that long. Well, this is my fate now, innit? Bye-bye. Especially with all that wind as well.
I know. She, like,
War
no way
explosions.
she's holding on to that.
One explosion makes you jump, you let go. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, fucking hell.
Yeah.
She should have done the thing that like they're doing like fucking Cirque du Soleil and just kind of like wrap her legs around, chill there for a bit.
Upside down, do a
Yeah.
show, come back up. Yeah. Anything to add to Everybody Lives or any of that kind of
I just
thing?
think Everybody Lives is such an incredible moment, and I've said like it's.
Oh, well, I
wonderful.
also wrote as well that like Moffat has the reputation that he always kills characters off. Like he has like a really high body count, and I kind of like that his first episode nobody dies.
He brings people back to life. Technically, it's a negative body count.
Yeah,
But I just
I like
think,
that.
yeah, I just think it's a really good just 2-part.
and it makes it like it's scary and it's creepy and all this kind of thing, but it's still a wholesome watch because
it's scary.
because of the ending. It
scary with
ties it
hope.
all up nicely.
It's not just hope at the end. Like, it's scary with just a happy ending. And I prefer happy endings over sad endings because I feel like if it's a sad ending, what the fuck's the point of anything that's happened? Like, what-
Depends on the context.
Well, yeah, but it's like in horrors. Like, if everyone dies, it's like,
It's a waste of my life there.
yeah, so everyone's dead. But if it's like, this is why I like Alien. Like, it's like scary. Everyone's dying. But we have a survivor who defeated the bad guy. So like, I need some good
Yeah.
ending. I need something.
Last two things before I do wrap up. As I've said before, I'm watching this with my boyfriend at the moment, and he wasn't fussed on this episode when I watched it.
I can understand.
Can you understand why?
Yes, I can.
I think the reason is because he really likes silly camp ones, like he loves New Earth, Boomtown, that kind of thing. This is a very serious episode. Yes, there are funny moments, and it does have a nice ending, as we've said, but it is very more serious.
I
and
feel
it's-
like he'll learn to understand this more serious nature of Doctor Who as it comes on. Because it is very much like you get this alien and it's like you know of the Time War, but you know basically nothing about it.
No, and I think there are a lot of like, if you think about something like an episode like Heaven Sent, serious. It's not funny, no light moments, but it is like, it's like, you know, there's the argument that this is the greatest episode of Doctor Who ever, and you can totally understand that. It's kind of episode I'm thinking, if he watched that now, I bet he wouldn't like it. But by the time you get used to series episodes, you get,
you understand the
like,
character more.
This tone of an episode, this episode has the tone where I kind of think that's a good episode. Like if any episode has this kind of serious, dark tone, you kind of go, right, this is a good character piece episode. And I think that's the kind of thing you get used to as you go along. My other thing I'll say is, if you had to give it a rating out of 10, what would you give it?
9.
I'm going 9 because I just thought not a 10, not a 10, because like I said, if it was a 10, I'd have rewatched it for this podcast. Despite only watching it 2 weeks ago, I'd have rewatched it. However, I didn't want to, so I thought I cannot be arsed with it again. So that shows you that I'm like, it's not perfect. It's not perfect in the sense that I'm like, I can watch it. So if, like, say it was The Stolen Earth, Journey's End, and I watched that 2 weeks ago, absolutely I'd be watching it again. But I didn't. But also thinking like 8 feels way too low.
Yeah, 9.
I think 9 is very... Now, like I said, we do need to wrap this up, otherwise we will get locked in the building overnight.
I do like the where the old lady says, "My leg's growing back," and it's like, just love that.
And he's like, are you sure? Did you not mistake a leg? I like that, yeah. I've got through all my notes, I believe.
I have also. This is the end.
So this is the end. Hold your breath and count to 10. Feel the
Yeah, we don't have time.
And next week we will be doing Silence in the Library / Forest of the Dead.
Oh yes! Woo!
I've actually jumbled the schedule up a little bit because I was looking at it the other day. I thought I don't want to do that episode, so I wiped one and moved this. We were supposed to do this much later originally, but I've moved it backwards because I'm very excited to do it.
Very excited.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much for listening, everyone. We're doing a very quick ending now. Thank you very much for listening.
Join us again next week. Same bat time,
same bat channel.
Goodbye.
Good night.